Many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV News and we're broadcasting live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue. Here are the main local news headlines. The Independent Electoral Commission on Wednesday conducted a briefing for election observer groups accredited to monitor the December 4th presidential election. Addressing a rally at the Serakunda West Park on Tuesday night, President Barrow said he wants to build a strong foundation and leave behind a good legacy for his future successors. The Minister of Defense, Sir Omar Faye, on Wednesday implored Gambians to maintain peace and stability and revealed the preparedness of the security forces to ensure that peace prevails during the elections. The judiciary, including the Chief Justice and the Justice Minister, on Wednesday bade farewell to 2 justices of the Supreme Court who leave the bench for retirement as required by law. And in international news, today is World AIDS Day, commemorated on the 1st of December every year to show support for those who have been diagnosed and remember those who have been lost to the disease. Well, for more on these and other stories coming up, I'm Answane Sonyasi. And we now take a look at the news in detail. Election observation is important to ensure a free, fair and transparent election. The Independent Electoral Commission on Wednesday conducted a briefing for election observer groups accredited to monitor the December 4th presidential elections. Omar Pijalo reports.
The briefing was to inform the election observers about the IEC preparedness for conducting the election and provide the election observers with the information they need to enable them do their work effectively. This will enable the observers to judge whether the elections have been free, fair and transparent. Upon their arrival in the country shortly before the start of the nomination of candidates, the observer groups met various stakeholders including political parties, the police, civil society groups, citizen observers and monitor groups, and the media. On election day, the groups will observe pre-election environment, opening, voting, closing, counting and results management processes and activities of the post-election period. They will be able to evaluate whether the conditions made for a credible, transparent and inclusive election. The Deputy Inspector General of Police, Momodu Sow, said the Gambia Police Force, with support from partners, had conducted various capacity building training and simulation exercise for security officers to ensure a peaceful election. And he gave the assurance that the security personnel are on high alert and will handle with professionalism any breach of law and order before, during and after the election.
There is no situation in this country that we prescribed, that we projected, which can't be handled diligently and professionally. We are well prepared for every eventuality. We are well prepared for every unfortunate scenario, and we are also better prepared, better equipped, and well motivated to ensure that we take care and handle that situation.
The chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Aliou Momar Njie, while giving assurance of a free, fair and transparent election to Gambians, warned that it is illegal for anyone to announce the results of the election before the returning officer. He called on voters to participate in this election by voting where they were registered. He had these further words of advice for the candidates.
There are 6 contestants, but only 1 winner. And the losers should know that they have not voted for them, that's why they lost. Because everything was done in the eyes of their agents. So nobody will blame the IEC and nobody will blame anyone. Gambia is a people country, we all know that, and once you lose, accept it, that they have voted more for the winner than yourself.
After the election, the observers will again be invited for briefing session, wherein each observer group will submit a provisional report of their observation mission of the election to be followed by the submission of their final reports. These reports are usually discussed by the Commission to be able to identify the weaknesses and strengths of the IEC to enable them make improvements. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Now, addressing a rally at the Serakunda West Park on Tuesday night, President Barrow said he wants to build a strong foundation and leave behind a good legacy for his future successors to build on. Alucise tells us more.
Addressing a cheerful crowd at the West Park, President Barrow said he wants to be remembered as the president who brought the roads and bridges in Basse and the first world-class roads with flyovers, among other developments in the country. Confident of victory, the NPP-led coalition candidate advised the people to make the right choice by voting for him for a brighter future. Just as at previous meetings, he said the election is between voting for progress or backwardness. He re-echoed his determination to improve the state of Serekunda as a very important urban settlement. He said the people deserve the best as power resides in the people.
wax naa la ne président Barrow ñëwul pour caaxaan man ñëwuma pour foyantu man ñëwuma pour politique man ñëwuma pour discriminer nit ñi biir dëkk bi fii man liggéey rek moo ma isi Gambia te liggéey rek laa leen di defal te liggéey moo óor politique yi sentiment politique yi di xasante loolu amalul ñu benn njëriñ loolu dafa passé léegi 21st century lañ nekk aduna bi continuer na ñun tam dañu war a continuer kon ñun nii la ñoo xalaatee te bëgg naa ñëpp di xalaatee noonu.
He reveals plans to commence work on a three-lane road on Kairaba Avenue to modernize the busy business center. He calls on all to join him post the election to work together as Gambians for the advancement of the country. The Serekunda West rally was graced by prominent personalities including Vice President Dr. Esere Toure, cabinet ministers, coalition partners, and supporters of the NPP-led coalition. Speaking to QTV, VP Toure expressed optimism of a landslide victory, judging by the huge turnout and comments since the start of the tour.
Well, all over the country so far, I am very, very positive. The turnout is very good, even in the absence of His Excellency President Barrow. People came out to show their allegiance, and I believe that we are going to have landslide. Today is a manifestation of what you have seen. The turnout is excellent. People came, there is ambience. We've discussed, we've talked about the country's progress, and the president has promised the people that there is going to be development, and indeed there will be. He called for peace, he called for peaceful coexistence, and called the citizens to use their ballot box to choose the leader.
Alkalo Pa Omar Fall of Latchikunda, Njilan Sebajan, KMC Regional Women Mobilizer for APRC, Fatou Sane, Female Youth Coordinator, and Bakari Karasingate, Secretary General of Serekunda West NPP, among others, said President Barrow hasn't done anything that doesn't warrant a second mandate. They say the president has restored freedom of speech and rule of law, something Gambians were denied over 20 years. They called on the people to vote President Barrow for sustainable peace, progress, stability, social cohesion, and reconciliation.
Freedom of speech. Why mom bim ñëwé barka mi hiro kayro barona lañ xam la freedom of speech wa tole yalla mu ne freedom of speech ñëw nak anata nang pour jappalé jigéen anata mu soñé fassa yërem jigéen yi comme bala fa mu soñé yërem mag ni ka kébal buña yërem xalé yi ka alfal buña kon luñ wara def ñun akon ton ñenté mon kela dañ ko wara délo ñukal akode
Musa Drame, Minister of Lands, who also doubles as the National Treasurer of the NPP, called on the people to give their votes to the president. He told the meeting that President Barrow's government believes in the principles of democracy and accountability to the people. Hamad Nkeba, Tourism Minister and leader of the NRP party, expressed similar remarks as he credits the NPP leader for major achievements. He urged Gambians to go and vote as it is their right to participate in electing their leader. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
Now, still on elections, the Minister of Defense, Omar Faye, on Wednesday implored Gambians to maintain peace and stability before, during and after the presidential elections, and the preparedness of the security forces, he revealed as well, to ensure peace prevails in the country. More in this report by Jibintu Drame.
As Gambians head to the polls in a few days, communities, civil servants, CSOs, opposition parties, government officials have all been advocating peace in the country as December 4th election looms. Sheikh Omar Faye, the Minister of Defense, encourages Gambians to maintain goodwill and political maturity during this election period.
The country wants to continue to be in peace. respect for rule of law, the stability, development, protection of our borders, for our territorial integrity, develop the youths, support the women, prepare this country, and make sure that we continue to be a country that is envied, not only in the ECOWAS, not only in the AU, not only in the UN, but all over the world, that the Gambia is known for peace.
Minister Faye also explains the security strategies in place to ensure peace.
The President had made it very clear. The police have their strategies in place. They have their operation centers. They have their operation commanders. They have their communication network. They have their movements from the Inspector General of Police, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, and all the senior police officers and people in the camps, with the PIU, police line, the barracks. That is a different ministry, but it's the overall defense posture of the Gambia. So the President has made it very clear that the police, the security services, the armed forces already have their mechanisms. Their level of preparedness is on the ground. They are here to uphold the laws, and that's why we are appealing for people to respect the laws, because the security forces must defend the dignity and honor of this country.
The defense minister states that the security forces are prepared for the election cycle. He reassures Gambians they should not be intimidated, as the security services are there to protect the people.
Sometimes somebody saw a security officer on duty telling him that we will take you out here over the weekend. We will get you out of here. That is a big mistake. I think we should avoid provoking security. The security are here for all Gambians. And I have to say it as your Minister of Defense that let us exercise restraint to avoid problems in our country.
Less than 3 days to the presidential election, peace messages from all sectors have been conveyed to the public to ensure tranquility, a free and fair election, and respect for the rule of law. It is hoped that all the sensitization and advocacy will not go in vain in the best interests of the nation. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
And that report there by Ajibintu Drame will lead us to a short commercial break, but we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Gambia Banko bita President Karte Faola December karo atil nano nyinang. Ka President Tombo mumbe marla bankola insanji lulunala. Tumomin na banko be parendrol ke kang President Karte Faola, National Council for Civic Education NCCE ebe jama hakil bulanla. Ko President Karte Faode bankola luwala nati. Luwala fanna tannani ani woronjam. Andung ka Karte fanam fay o fanamu nyantoleti banku dingu be ni ata ya sartol timbandi nyin kamala ka Karte fayno December karnala atil nano komin banko la fanna muwanni woro anin luwala fanna tansaba anin konondo ya tandi nyami politicianol fele ibe kampanyo ke kan banko fanna be kan ka Karte nyini molbulu o kamala National Council for Civic Education NCCE ibe jama hakili bland la kodenki ke idabula politiko to waranto ka tra politika patio kono waranto ka Karte fay omo Gambia banku dingu bela nyantoleti bari nabe kala fanan asekeni kuluo kono famajio anin Cairo banko fanna bekan andun semfan jamfandi kuma kumalla ka jafirolu anin dendir kumolu kanyo silandi waranto fitino ate wato bela kantu walmu luwati nyalati Gambia banko kanja ibe jamabe kalamtan la fanan ko nsakata nga jamfa nyoso sola andun ning momondi kolea so do sakata silolu noma coming silol banko la loi tande nyami kaje ka fanan ka Cairo mumbe banko kan ay tara sabatin ate wato mumme be kantu yirwat nano hadama anin fanko la karola ning atra Cairo anin tanku mantra sabatin banko kan Gambia la Karte Fawode akekenin sutrole kono ila Karte Fawanyin ya fay dawda momondin talonna o kamala Karte Fayo akumata bakele andun ase falendro natnole fanan adola munyin banko kan Karte fayda daming aka kasabi jele fanan ke idabula politiko to o mu ila nyantoleti anin ibe Karte fayla dawda fanaye o fanan mu ila nyantoleti woto alalla Karte fay kunke ina mu kankularoti mumboda NCCE bulu de maroto mumboda UNDP bulu ala baraka
QTV News. I am Ansmane Sonyasi and we're broadcasting live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue. Now, the judiciary on Wednesday bid farewell to 2 justices of the Supreme Court who leave the bench for retirement as required by law. In a farewell ceremony, among other speakers, the Chief Justice and the Justice Minister praised the professional track records of the retiring judges and their contribution towards the current impartial and independent judiciary in the Gambia. Maud Lamin Choi tells us more.
Professional legal careers spanning nearly half a century have ended for these 2 Gambian justices of the Supreme Court. They were born in the same year and are now 75 years of age, the legal retirement age for Supreme Court judges. The president of the Gambia Bar Association, Saliu Tal, describes the personalities of the 2 justices as kind, honest, and with a great sense of fairness and justice on the bench, who have left a legacy that is worth celebrating in the judiciary.
As we seek to reposition the legal profession and the judiciary, these 2 gentlemen are great role models for us to learn from and emulate.
The retired justices Raymond Claudius Sog and Jibril Babakar Semega Jane have long professional careers in the judiciary and served those at the pinnacle of the judiciary, including the Chief Justice and the Attorney General. They were both unceremoniously dismissed by former President Jammeh and reinstated in 2017 by President Adama Barrow. The Minister of Justice, Dauda A. Jallo, acknowledges the contribution of the 2 justices to the present reputation of the judiciary, whose impartiality and independence is popular among Gambians.
I would like to express, on behalf of His Excellency the President, Adama Barrow, the Attorney General's Chambers and the Ministry of Justice, our profound gratitude to the Honorable Justice Sok and Honorable Justice Jane for their invaluable contribution to the judiciary, the Gambian public, and selfless service to the country.
The Chief Justice of the Gambia, Hassan B. Jallo, congratulates the 2 retiring justices for what he calls a lifetime of dedication to service for country, with a track record that is worthy of emulation in the judiciary.
Their lordships will remain shining examples and role models for members of the legal profession, for the members of the bar, in the honorable discharge of their duties, to the bench for their professionalism, their integrity, and the manner in which, through their judgments, they have not only delivered justice fairly without fear or favor, but contributed significantly to the enrichment of the jurisprudence of the Gambia.
Justices Raymond C. Sog and Jibril B. Semega Jane are grateful for the opportunity accorded them to serve the country, using facts and law as the basis of their judgment on the bench.
We have been making decisions as judges. I would like to believe that all our decisions were based on the facts and the law, but perhaps in the eyes of God, we may have made mistakes here and there, which may not conform with the idea that God has. If that is the case, I do apologize for any mistakes I may have made.
We have always been quick to take corrective measures to redirect our trajectories towards the rule of law. We have wondered in the realization that it is existentially important to the justice sector that we stand together for the rule of law in our endless pursuit of justice.
The 2 retiring justices leave behind a legacy that the judiciary is proud of and aiming at building on to strengthen its independence and the rule of law for the greater good. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, QTV News.
Now, as Gambians head to the polls on Saturday, QTV visited Serakunda Market to get the opinions of people about the on-the-spot counting method of tallying votes. Zainab Hydra reports.
This will be the 12th election in the Gambia's history and is one which everyone expects to be free, fair and transparent election. Once the votes are cast, Gambians have differing views on how the votes should be counted. Some say the drums should be taken to the nearest Independent Electoral Commission (IEC) office for counting, while others prefer the current on-the-spot counting. Khadijatu Kante speaks to us that the spot counting method is a valuable tool for improving the quality of election.
Basically, this spot counting, it's something that I really appreciate, because looking at it, it's very fine. If people get into it, like if they start this spot counting, people will be very comfortable. Like there won't be anything like this cheating issue. Because looking at all political parties, there are representatives who are involved in the vote counting. And then people will believe it's fair, it's free and fair, no problem will be encountered.
Alassane Njai, a shop owner at Serekunda Market, says we should have continued with the previous method we had been using. And he explains why he holds that view.
I'm a suma gis anga bole defon nen mu indi won ciow. It's the first time ñu def ko jigun.
It was the first time, yet it did not favor us. So there is no need in repeating the same method. Once the voting is over, let all the drums be taken to the IEC for counting to avoid the mistake of the last presidential election, which led to the announcement of 2 different results.
However, Ibuseka, a businessman, shared his opinion, and he believes the on-the-spot counting should be maintained, and he gave us his reasons.
All the polling stations in the Gambia have IEC and party representatives, plus security. So that being the case, let counting be done in the presence of all, and later be completed at the IEC. If the previous method is used, there can be cheating. So for me, on-the-spot counting is the best. Plus, it is free and fair.
In this year's election, we have 6 presidential candidates seeking the mandate of Gambia's Saturday's election, with 1,554 polling stations countrywide. Gambians across 120 wards in 53 constituencies will be casting their votes for the country's next president. No matter which method people prefer, all are confident we will get the right results. For QTV News, I am Zainab Haidara.
And a report by Zainab Haidara will lead us to the international news in a moment. Now, today is World AIDS Day, commemorated on the 1st of December every year, to show support for those who have been diagnosed and remember those who have been lost to the disease. Abibatu Cicel tells us more.
40 years since the first AIDS cases were reported, HIV still affects millions of people worldwide. Although the world has made significant progress in recent decades, important global targets for 2020 were not met. Today, the world is off track from delivering on the shared commitment to end AIDS by 2030, not because of the lack of knowledge or tools to beat AIDS, but because of structural inequalities that obstruct proven solutions to HIV prevention and treatment. Division, disparity, and disregard for human rights are among the failures that allowed HIV to become and remain a global health crisis. Now, COVID-19 is exacerbating inequalities and disruptions to services, making the lives of many people living with HIV more challenging. On this day, WHO is calling on global leaders and citizens to ally to confront the inequalities that drive AIDS and to reach people who are currently not receiving essential HIV services. Africa has been the continent hardest hit by AIDS, with Southern, Central, and Eastern Africa accounting for more than 80% of all cases in Africa. UNAIDS issued a stark warning that if leaders fail to tackle inequalities, the world could face 7.7 million AIDS-related deaths over the next 10 years. UNAIDS further warns that if the transformative measures needed to end AIDS are not taken, the world will also stay trapped in the COVID-19 crisis and remain dangerously unprepared for the pandemics to come. Unlike the COVID-19 vaccine, HIV vaccine has eluded scientists for decades. The traditional thinking around vaccines is to mimic the body's natural immune response to a virus. The problem with HIV is the body's natural immune response isn't strong enough to fight the virus. However, scientists are hopeful that mRNA technology, the same technology used in the COVID vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech, could be a turning point to develop the HIV or AIDS vaccine. For QTV News, I am Abibatu Sisi.
And before we end this bulletin of the news, here's a recap of our main headlines. The Independent Electoral Commission on Wednesday conducted a briefing for election observer groups accredited to monitor the December 4th presidential election. Addressing a rally at the Serekunda West Park on Tuesday night, President Barrow said he wants to build a strong foundation and leave behind a good legacy for his future successors. The Minister of Defense, Omar Faye, on Wednesday implored Gambians to maintain peace and stability and revealed the preparedness of the security forces to ensure that peace prevails during the elections. The judiciary, including the Chief Justice and the Minister of Justice, on Wednesday bade farewell to 2 justices of the Supreme Court who leave the bench for retirement as required by law. That is all we have for you in this bulletin. Do join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Until then, thanks for watching.